I don't think any human being should be a nurse anymore. The way we get treated, it should never happen anymore. Patients are so fucking disrespectful. Every time you fucking see someone for the first time, a patient, it's a complaint, this, after this, after this. This drags your fucking soul down. It's toxic. It's toxic energy that's radiating. I just walked out of the hospital. I just walked out of the unit. I didn't tell anybody. I got floated, and they ran me down with way more patients than I'm supposed to take. And it's literally 12:52. I just walked off, and I'm just sitting in the car. When I walked out, I literally felt, honestly, I felt like I was being freed out of prison, like I was being free from an imprisonment. There's nothing else I can do. There's nothing else I can give this profession. In my 14 years of practice, I have done so much.
This really shows how quickly burnout can build up. When you are constantly dealing with complaints, pressures, and difficult situations, eventually it starts taking a toll on you. And when people taking care of patients are completely drained, that affects everyone. This is giving that moment of saying, I am done. It's pretty serious. 14 years in a profession is a long time. So if someone with that much experience feel like they have nothing left to give, we have to ask why. People don't just walk away from a career they spent years building without a reason. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about America healthcare system and why so many healthcare workers are burning out, leaving their jobs and saying they have had enough. So let's take a look at what's really going on.
Modern physician leaves the profession on average at the age of 48. There is a predicted doctor shortage in 2030 that is as high as 140,000 physicians. Women surgeons are leaving the profession at an alarming rate. This is not simply a problem that affects physicians. This is a problem that affects everyone. And until we all start giving a crap about the well-being of physicians, we all lose.
And it's not only nurses who are struggling. Doctors are also talking about burnt out, pressure, debt, and losing the reason they entered medicine in the first place. When people spend years training for a profession and then end up wanting to leave, that's something worth paying attention to.
I'm quitting nursing in 2026 and I'm bringing you along with me. I've been a nurse since 2019 and I've just hit a point where I know that I can't do this forever. I'm still working right now as a nurse, but I'm starting esthetician school in January. I've never felt more aligned with anything and I'm choosing to just pivot my whole life. I want a life that feels softer, slower, more me. Like I don't want to work in the hospital anymore. I don't want to be a bedside nurse anymore. It's just not for me.
I think a lot of people can relate to this, realizing that a job is simply not making you happy anymore. And sometimes living does not mean you failed. It can simply means you are realizing that you want a different kind of life. You know what I mean?
Healthcare in America is starting to crack. We have the technology, but we can't seem to stop burning through the people who are actually holding healthcare together. We already see the warning signs. Emergency departments boarding patients for literal days because there's no rooms available. Rural hospitals shutting down. Nurses and other healthcare staff leaving bedside in massive numbers. Primary care shortages growing every year. Long wait times for specialists. Increasing violence against healthcare workers. Healthcare workers managing more patients with less resources. Insurance denials and delaying care. And patients delaying treatment because they just can't afford it. And are you ready for the scary part that's on the horizon? This is all happening before the largest wave of aging Americans hits the system. The U.S. population is getting older while healthcare workers themselves are aging out, retiring, or leaving altogether. So you do the math. More patients, sicker patients, fewer staff. And all the while, hospitals continue to operate like corporations. Metrics, productivity, throughput, cost cutting, do more with less. Many nurses and other healthcare workers believe the system is not going to help protect their license, their mental health, their physical safety, and especially not their work-life balance.
Now, This is where the bigger problems comes in. If healthcare workers keep living while the demand of healthcare keep growing, who is going to take care of all the patients? More patients, fewer workers, more pressure. That's not a great formula for a healthcare system.
So why are people, specifically doctors, leaving medicine? Well, being a doctor who's been in practice for the last at least 10 to 15 years, I would say that the medical industry in the world has changed dramatically, and not in a good way for doctors and healthcare providers. When I initially applied to medical school and decided to go into training to become a physician, I was under this impression that I was going to go through all this training, I was going to make all these sacrifices, and that at the end of it, I was going to add value to our society. I was going to be somebody who could take care of their community, who could make a real difference in the world. But in reality, it did not turn out to be like that at all. And I'm not saying I regret my decision of becoming a doctor, but I wish I knew a lot of this prior to going into training. Because once you commit to the medical world and being a physician, there's really no turning back, because it really starts off with the debt, the student loans. So most people, including myself, graduate from medical school with at least $300,000 to $500,000 in debt, student loans, from just becoming a doctor and just from training to become a doctor. And so I don't think people realize how much in debt you go into as a physician in training. After the debt and getting through the debt and all of that that's associated with the training, you are also giving up the majority of your 20s and some of your 30s, depending on the specialty that you choose. So what does this mean? Undergrad, I did for 4 years. Medical school, I did for 4 years. And then you go into residency. My residency as an internal medicine physician was 3 years. So if you calculate that out from 18 until my early 30s, I was in training and really sacrificing a lot of my life. So most of my friends in this time period in their 20s and 30s are traveling, are starting their families, they're getting married, they're making great money in their jobs and in their careers, whereas us physicians are still in training, making probably less than minimum wage based on how many hours working in our residency program, and not able to start our lives until later in life, comparatively speaking, to a lot of our peers and our friends.
Then there is the financial side that people don't always think about. Years of school, years of training, huge student debt, and delaying your personal life, or to enter a profession that can still leave you completely burnt out. The sacrifice is huge, so people expect the career to feel worth it, right?
As a nurse, one thing the public does not understand about healthcare is that bad working conditions for us means a bad experience for you. When healthcare workers strike or vote to authorize one, it is to improve conditions for workers and therefore patients. You. Fighting for better patient ratios means we get to spend more time with you. Fighting for better equipment means you get a TV and a bed that's working. Fighting for better pay means you don't have healthcare workers that are working multiple jobs and showing up to take care of you exhausted. All of it is for you. All of it helps you. This fall has seen some very historic wins for the working class, all thanks to unions, all thanks to our right to organize. But one that I am willing to bet you probably haven't heard about yet was Sutter Health in California. Sutter Health workers had a huge win after a very long battle with their company. This nonprofit hospital system raked in over $1 billion in 2024. Please explain to me how you have a profit margin of over $1 billion, but you still refuse to listen to your workers when they demand safer conditions for themselves and their patients.
This is such an important point. When healthcare workers are overworked and overstaffed, patients feel it too. Tired nurses have more patients to handle, less time to spend with each persons, and more pressure on their shoulder. So improving working condition is not just about the workers, it's also meant a better care for patients. This is what I think.
New supervisor, and I felt like she was just constantly picking at me. Recently, like it just started, everything was fine until recently. Mind you, she just been there a couple months, but you know, she's picked on me and I lied on my name, and I just felt like honestly she was out to get me, and to protect my medication license, I decided to just leave. So yeah, it's just a gentle reminder to Never take no shit from anybody, no matter what, and always know your worth.
Sometimes you have to know when to walk away. If someone feels their job is putting their license, their well-being, or their peace of mind at risk, leaving may actually be the smartest decision. No job is worth losing yourself over.
50% of the nurses in the United States are 50 and older, meaning that within the next 12 years, 50% of the nurses will be retired. 50%. That's half of all of the nurses in the United States. They'll be gone. With this greedy healthcare system that encourages the abuse of nurses, I'm not sure they'll be able to recruit the 50% that they'll be losing in the next 12 years. That is catastrophic. There is going to be a massive wave of retirement. And of the other 50%, millennials make up 30 to 34%. That leaves Gen Z only making up 6 to 19% of nurses. I can't imagine what nursing is going to look like in 12 years. I just think that Gen X and millennials are a case study to see how much they can put on us. Then they're going to turn around and do that to Gen Z. They're going to see if it works. And if it works, then they're not going to need that many of them.
This part is really concerning. If a large number of experienced nurses retire or leave and there are not enough new workers coming in to replace them, the pressure on the people who stay will only get worse. And that could mean even more staff shortages and even more burnt out.
Hundreds of doctors are about to disappear from U.S. hospitals, not because they quit, because the government hasn't processed their paperwork. So let me break this down because this is not getting enough attention. Right now, hundreds of foreign-trained physicians who completed residency here in the United States are at risk of being forced to leave the country within months. Not because they did anything wrong, but because their visa waivers are stuck in a federal backlog. These are J1 visa waiver physicians, which means they agreed to stay in the United States and work in underserved communities for at least 3 years. So we're talking rural hospitals, low-income urban areas, places that already struggle to recruit clinicians. Now, here's the problem. This program, run by the Department of Health and Human Services, used to process these applications in 1 to 3 weeks. Now there are hundreds of applications sitting there, unprocessed since last fall and winter. And if these applications are not reviewed and approved by July 30th, these doctors have to leave the country.
So this also shows how many different pieces have to work together to keep healthcare running. If qualified doctors are ready to work, but administrative delays keep them from starting, that's another problem for a system that already need more healthcare workers.
I got called into my manager's office because I was being reported by another nurse because I made her feel uncomfortable when she was eavesdropping on a private conversation that I was having with a friend/nurse. The conversation wasn't anything inappropriate. We were simply discussing pro or anti-union, but we were joking amongst ourselves. And she said the language I was using made her feel unsafe. And the manager decided to pull me away from my patients to tell me that if I continue said behavior, she would have to get HR involved. She did not ask me what actually happened. She didn't ask me for my version of events. None of those things. Just to let me know that if I continue with said reported behavior, she would email HR. I said, don't you worry about it. She said, what do you mean? I said, don't you worry about it. I will handle that. I exited her office, walked to the nurse's station, sat down at an available computer, opened up my company email, CC'd and BCC'd all my personal emails, emailed her and HR together, and let them know effective immediately I will be vacating this said position that you begged me to take.
So workplace drama can push people out too. When someone feels targeted or unsupported by management, it can completely change how they feel about their job. People want to feel respected while they are working, especially when they are already dealing with such demanding perfection.
I was just like,
thinking back and reflecting on how when I was a nurse and I was working in the hospital, how misaligned that was for me. And I was doing that for 5 years, and it was so draining. Like, it was so taxing on my being, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And looking back, you know, becoming an entrepreneur and building something from literally the ground up, from like literally nothing, has been hard. But to have stayed where I was in a misaligned position that was like sucking me dry, I just don't know the toll that it would have taken had I stayed longer. And I'm just like, I have so much gratitude for trusting the process and literally taking the leap, feeling the fear, and doing it anyway.
Now, this is something we don't talk about enough. Sometimes you can be good at your job and still realize that the job is not good for you anymore. Choosing a different path does not mean that you gave up. Sometimes it means you finally choose yourself.
Can I just ask you a real question real quick? Why is it that every establishment that I go to is short-staffed? I'm literally on the phone talking to my other doctor's offices to make an appointment for myself. And the front desk lady says, "Hold on, babe, give me 1 second." I said, "Is everything okay?" She said, "No, girl, I've been by myself for about 2 days." Huh? 2 days? You been by yourself for 2 days? You mean ain't nobody show up to work for 2 days? You been in the front desk by yourself for 2 days?
This last video really make you wonder what's going on when you walk into a different business and healthcare offices and everywhere seems to be short-staffed. Like, it starts feeling like this is not just one workplace problem. It feels like a more bigger problem with how people are working and how much pressure they are expected to handle. So far, hearing all of these experiences, it's hard to ignore the warning sign. Healthcare workers are tired, many are leaving, and the demand of healthcare is not going away, right? The biggest question is, how long can this system keep running like this? Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you do enjoy this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel. I am Joy. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in my next one.